And we are live. Welcome, mystery and thriller fans. I'm your on-air host, Sara DiVello, and I am so excited to welcome today best-selling author Tess Gerritsen here to give us the skinny on her brand new book, Listen to Me, the latest in the Rizzoli and Isles series. Tess, welcome back to Mystery and Thriller Mavens. Tell us about this book.
Well, it was an unexpected book because I didn't know I was going to write number 13 in the Rizzoli and Isles series. I'd written a couple of standalones in between, but suddenly I started hearing a voice in my head, and that's usually how it starts. This time the voice was Jane's mother, Angela Rizzoli, who just started talking about if you see something, say something. So here she is, a suburban housewife. She sees something in her neighborhood, and she wants to investigate. I thought it'd be fun to have a book where Jane's mom becomes much more of a major character, and that mother-daughter relationship between the mom and the homicide detective needed to be explored.
Well, I can't wait to hear about that. I'm so interested to hear that you didn't expect to write this book, but the voices started talking to you. I want to hear about the voices. I want to hear about all of this. Get every delicious detail. But first, I just want to welcome everyone. So we're broadcasting live to 6 different destinations. No matter where you're watching from, Facebook or YouTube, you're in the right place. This is the right time. It is Mystery Monday. And let us know what questions you have for best-selling author Tess Gerritsen. Welcome to the conversation, Lynn, Debbie, Alan, Rose, Anissa. Thank you so much for joining us. She says, hello, Sarah and Tess. Anissa joining us from South Carolina. Marcy, welcome to the conversation, saying hello from Nantucket. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. So, Tess, I'm interested to hear you say that you weren't expecting to write this, but you started to hear a voice of a mother. Mothers always know best. Tell us about what were you doing? Were you washing the dishes? Were you taking a walk? Walk us through that moment of inception when you started hearing this voice.
Well, I was working on other books at the time, and I was working on a script at the same time, and my mother passed away, but I still hear her voice, and that voice is always offering advice, sometimes unwanted. And I thought, Angela Rizzoli is such a powerful character in these books. She's been there from the number 1 book. She's been there both as a thorn in Jane's side and also as a comfort. So when she started talking, I listened. And because Lorraine Bracco took over that role on television, I think it was her voice I was listening to.
I love that. Polly, welcome to the conversation, saying, I love all of your books. Tess, Susie, welcome to the conversation, saying, hi, Tess and Sarah from Seattle. Tess, I love your Rizzoli and Isles series. Susie, thanks so much for joining us. I love that so when she started talking to you, does she talk directly to you? Is she like, Tess, you have to write me? Or is it more she's just telling you what she's seeing in her seemingly normal suburban neighborhood, but it turns out it's riddled with secrets as well?
Well, she's not talking to me, but she's
Okay.
expressing herself, and she's saying, the neighbors across the street, there's something going on in that house. Their curtains are always closed. They're so unfriendly. What is happening? And then, I hear her talking about her weekly Scrabble game with her neighbors, and what is going on with these neighbors, and why did that girl down the street disappear? So you just know that she's the busybody. She always gets involved, and she's also got a heart of gold. So it's not like she's a nasty busybody. She's a caring busybody.
A caring busybody. She sounds like a good Italian mom. I love it. And I love that she's talking to you, is sharing what she sees. That sounds so good. Okay. Anissa would like to know, Tess, do your characters lead you or do you lead them? Is this different at different parts of the writing process? Anissa, as a librarian, great question there.
I think it's 50-50. Sometimes the plot just kind of plows ahead, and I try to find a way for these characters to take part in this plot. But a lot of the times, as you're writing a page and you're writing a scene, a character will say something you weren't expecting. And when that happens, you let it happen. I often find also that the books that begin with a voice in my head are the ones that are the easiest to write. If I can hear them say something to me, like Angela, or if I can hear something, about what they're witnessing, that voice sort of leads me into the story. In fact, that's really how The Surgeon started. Now, the very first book in the Rizzoli and Isles series, the killer started talking to me. And that became my kind of entree into the whole mystery of The Surgeon.
Ooh, that's fascinating because Tess, you thought your career was going to be in the medical field, and I love to know that the surgeon kicked off with this killer whispering to you. So we're broadcasting in live to two private Facebook groups, so you can stay mysterious if you're watching for one of those and just not let us know who you are, or you can enable privacy in the link above and let us know. One mysterious viewer would like to know, Tess, can you share the cast of this book? So we've got Angela Rizzoli, and of course, we've got Jane and Maura. Who else is starring in this book?
You've got the usual people. You've got Jane, you've got Maura, you've got Jane's partner, Detective Barry Frost. You also have a little view of Detective Frost's wife, who has been something of a thorn in the story. Her name is Alice, and they started off happily married. Then Alice left him for a law student friend of hers, and now she's back. And so you still see this marital discord between Barry and his current wife, or his still wife. And then you get to see Angela Rizzoli in all her glory, living in this suburb with the Navy SEAL who's always pumping iron across the street, and the couple down the street. He's an English teacher, and he always beats her in Scrabble, and she can't stand it. So you get to see Angela's little universe. But you also find, of course, the whole mystery cast after a nurse has been murdered in her home, and that's the mystery that Jane has to investigate. Who killed this very, very much liked nurse? She's a widow. She's never been in any trouble. Why would somebody break into her house and bludgeon her to death? So that's the main mystery. But then there's also the mystery that Angela has to confront in her own neighborhood of what happened to the missing teenage girl.
And that question is coming from Tristan. I just peeked in Tristan's watching in our Mystery and Thriller Mavens group. Tristan, thank you for joining us in Mavens, and thank you for the great question. Love that. We have another mystery user saying, this is one of my most anticipated reads of the summer. I have every single book of yours, and I just love your characters. The Surgeon and the Apprentice had me sleeping on the couch for a while.
Well, I'd have to say that when I finished The Surgeon, my husband read it. He would go, he would walk around the house making sure all the windows were locked. I mean, it was freaking out my husband too to have read that story. So thank you very much. I wanted people to think about how the ordinary can be really dangerous. I mean, we look around us, and when you look at these serial killers after they're caught, it's always astonishing to me how ordinary they are.
Yeah, let's pause on that, Tess, because that's something that always fascinates me too, is you always have, somebody on the news saying, he seemed like a really nice guy, stayed to himself. I had no idea. Do you think that they do present as ordinary, or are we just not paying attention because we're too tuned? What do you think?
We're not paying attention. I mean, most people are ordinary. I mean, there's a certain, there's a certain bell curve of what's ordinary and what's not ordinary. And I think that if they're intelligent killers, they can easily pass for normal. For instance, the Kansas City dog catcher. Who ever imagined that he was a serial killer? Or the retired cop in California who was killing people. I mean,
the Golden State Killer. Yeah.
We think we should trust them. So I think that the real lesson to be learned is that killers look like you and me. But it's male, usually male.
Yes, which is also interesting. And in my research for my latest book, I actually learned that when women kill, it is usually for self-defense of self or others, and usually the others are children. But when men kill, it's for primal emotions like rage, greed, jealousy, those kinds of emotions. But it's very different how the genders traditionally kill. Yeah, very interesting stuff here. Anissa saying, wow, very interesting. Anissa, I totally agree. So Tess, this is your 13th book in the Rizzoli and Isles series, and I let people submit questions in advance in the Mystery and Thriller Mavens group, and someone would like to know how does Tess stay motivated and creative, churning out book after book, plus your 8 standalones, plus your collaboration with Gary Braver last year? Great question. Let's hear.
It's hard. I think that the real question is, how do you keep a series like Rizzoli and Isles going for so long? And I think part of it is that every so often you need to take a break. You need to write something completely out of the series. So then that's what I've done. So that it's part of what keeps me motivated is fresh stories keep coming to me. I feel sorry for people who feel trapped by their series characters, that they have to keep writing the same book over and over. It is a trap that a lot of writers fall into because that's what the publishers want from us. They know that these series books sell better, and that's what they want. So it takes a little, I guess, a little rebellion to say, no, I'm going to write something different this time around. But it's like a palate cleanser. It keeps you fresh, and it keeps you writing over time. The other thing is that I don't really write that fast. I write maybe a book every year to 2 years. That's not that fast. It's just that I'm old and I've been doing it for a long time. So after 30 years, you've written 30 books, right? So that's why it seems like I have a high output, but I'm just steady. I'm like that ship that just keeps on going and doesn't stop.
A book a year is pretty fast, Tess. That's impressive, I think, because you're now on the promotion, getting ready to do. Your book comes out July 5th. The book's not even out, you guys. The book comes out July 5th. This is a very special pre-launch event that Tess is coming in to give us the scoop in advance. And so you must be already working on your next book then.
Yeah, it's almost finished. It's on my desk right now. So I'm down to the last couple of chapters.
Yay! And when will that come out? Is that coming out next year?
Well, I haven't submitted it yet, but if I do in the next couple of months, it would probably come out about the same time next year. Yes.
Yay. Okay, great. Well, this one is earning all sorts of amazing press. So, Karin Slaughter raving that this book is shocking and fast paced, suspenseful and clever. Nobody is who they seem to be. So let's talk about, first of all, I love that Karin's been on the show and coming back this summer. And I love that praise from her. I love her style of writing. So let's talk about your suspenseful and clever book. So what's your process, Tess? Do you plot it out? Are you whiteboarding it? Are you going where the story takes you? What's it look like to be a fly on the wall of Tess's creative process?
You'll see me tearing my hair out all the time. I'm a plunger. I'm not a planner. I have tried to write an outline. I thought that just seems like the most logical way to do it, right? Because I'm a logical person. You get out your game plan. You plot out your route, and you just follow the map. And every time I've done that, within a couple of chapters, I'm off the map. I'm going somewhere else because a character will say something I didn't expect, or I will get a plot twist that suddenly occurs to me. And next thing you know, I'm way off the chart, and then I'm writing a completely different book than I had planned. So I've learned to accept that's my crazy process. I've learned that no matter how much I get stopped up somewhere in the middle of it where I don't know what's going to happen next, I will always figure my way out. It's a lot of it is running into blind alleys and getting out of those again. And I have my own little techniques for getting away from writer's block. Number one is just to stop writing for a couple of weeks. Take long walks, lie on the couch, look at the ceiling, take a long drive, do some mindless travel, and I can usually get through that wall doing those things. So as you can see, my first drafts are going to be a complete mess because I don't know where I'm going. And a lot of blind alleys, a lot of things that change midway through. I have another thing that I do is I avoid editing while I'm writing the first draft. If I edit during the first draft, I will just keep on editing. I won't get forward. I will just get stuck on this chapter to make it perfect. So I think that just stops your forward progress. And then finally, the thing I do that is surprising to a lot of writers, especially now in the wonderful computer age, is I still write my first drafts in pen and paper. And
Wow.
I know it's crazy, isn't it? I can type 100 words a minute. That's not the problem. The problem is I see the words on the screen and I want to edit it. And that stops me.
But you don't want to cross it out or erase it if you're doing it on paper.
If I do it on paper, my handwriting is so illegible that that the flaws aren't as obvious to me when they're on paper. So I will cross out stuff. But the other thing is I always use unlined typing paper because I like to write on the side and I like to write in all directions and I like to stick stuff in. Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit like putting crayons with a kid in front of a piece of paper. You know, they'll draw all over the place, and that's how my first drafts look.
Anissa is wondering, and I'm wondering too, Anissa, we're in sync. Is it pen and paper, or pencil, or I mean, we need to know, Tess. Is it Sharpie? Is it black ink? Do you have a special pen? Is it fountain pen? Is it a quill? A Bic?
It's just a big stick. That's all.
Stick.
I buy these by the dozens, you know. And then the great thing about not using a pencil is you never have to sharpen it. So you know, the ink runs out, you toss it, you pick up the next one. So it's a continuous bunch of blue ink. That's it.
I love it. So I am also team blue ink. I don't know why, but I have to have blue ink. So funny. Someone saying, I love that you use pen and paper. Yeah. And I'm picturing a very creative, almost an artful page of you say you write in different directions, you write in the margin. I mean, can we frame some of this? This could be Tess art. We don't know.
Well, not only that, but I have like a big pad of red stickums. So that every so often there's no room left on the page. So I'll write on the red sticky and then I'll slap it on and know that somehow fits into the text that's on that page.
But wait, a Post-it note?
Post-it note, yeah.
But only red.
No, it's they're yellow. You know how they're yellow? The yellow
okay.
Notes, yeah. So if I run out of space on that page and I need to fit in something, I will just write the extra text on a yellow Post-it note and just attach it to the page and then move on.
But only if you're out of room. Otherwise, you just cram it in the corner. Oh my gosh. Okay. Anise is saying Office Depot must love Tess. She has to use lots of pens. Yes. And also Post-its. You must be, I hope you're a rewards member or something there.
I should be. And lots of paper. I apologize to the trees, but that's the only way I know how to do it.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Sharon, welcome to the conversation. Joining us from Minnesota. She says, The Surgeon is one of the scariest books I have ever read. Sharon, welcome to the conversation. So great to see you pop up. I totally agree. And you know what? Fear is actually really hard to write because it's easy to tip over into cheesy. Yeah. Tess, all these books in 13 Rizzoli and Isles, 9 other books. What's your secret to writing fear?
I pay attention to what scares me. That's all. And if something freaks me out, I will put that on the page. I remember that the reason I wrote The Surgeon, I mean, it wasn't just that the killer came to me. It's also that in the medical field, I asked myself, what scares me as a patient? Because I was still sort of working on medical thrillers at the time, and I was trying to examine what my fears are. I mean, not only that you go into a hospital and you die, it's also all these people have power over you in the medical profession when you're sick. And what is it like to hand over your blood to somebody? You go to the doctor and they take a blood sample and that blood sample goes to some lab somewhere. Who's in that lab? And I began to imagine some guy in a hospital basement who's working in the lab, and he gets these tubes of blood from all over the city because they're being shipped to him through all these doctors' offices. What if it turns out that your tube of blood, there's something about it that makes him decide you are his next victim? And that was where it all came from, is that the idea that we have so many secrets. When we hand over our tube of blood, we are giving somebody a lot of secrets, intimate secrets about ourselves.
Ooh, wow. Thank you for that inside scoop. This is so fascinating. Tristan would like to know, how many Rizzoli and Isles will there be?
I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, when I started the series, I didn't know it was a series, so I can't predict anything. I didn't know Jane was going to go on to a second book until I finished the first book. Right now, I'm working on a book that's out of the series, so I don't know which book is coming after that.
Ooh.
Maybe a couple more years until a number 14 comes out.
So now you're working, your next book will be a standalone, or will it be okay, okay, great. Any secrets you can reveal if you're comfortable?
Yeah, it's about I live in this little town in Maine, and it came to our attention that there were a lot of spies, retired spies living around us. In my one little street, we had like a spy on one side and a spy a couple doors down. And I realized later on at talking to realtors that we seem to be a village where they congregate. And I thought, what do you do when you're a retired spy? What is life like? Do you get together and talk about cases? And what happens if you need to go back to work? So that was the whole idea, is that we have a 60-year-old female spy who's happily retired as a chicken farmer, and and a dead body shows up in her driveway. Is it related to her old past? Can her friends help her out? So that was the idea: is a bunch of spies getting together to play detective.
That is such a great premise. I absolutely love it. I think in the past 27 months since I founded the series, I've hosted, I think, 6 former CIA agents and analysts, and a former sniper, and some other retired spy-like people. And I have wondered, where do they live? How do they sleep at night? How many times do they have to check the windows are closed? I would have to check a lot. So I absolutely love that premise. Tess, I can't wait to read this book. You have to come back when it comes out. This is absolutely fabulous.
Well, I think the fun part about it also is that I'm talking about older people. This was also the fun with Listen to Me, is that I'm talking about Angela Rizzoli, who's a woman in her late 50s, early 60s. And there's a phenomenon, of course, as we get older as women, that we become less and less visible. We sort of disappear into the background. People don't pay as much attention to us anymore. And that's a source of frustration for Angela Rizzoli. She's a very clever woman. You can see where her daughter gets her smarts from, and it's not from her dad. And what if mom has something to say, has some important observation, and nobody's listening to her? So I wanted to explore that frustration of being an older woman who has a lot of experience and maybe knows things that nobody's giving her credit for.
I love that, especially because that is so true, that, there's a lot going on culturally. Men become more dignified, more suave, more charming. Women become more invisible, discarded, just less interesting. So I love that you are diving right into that, and getting right in there. I love that. Tristan would like to know what becomes of Julian. And a follow-up question, but let's get this one first, because then there's a follow-up question to there.
Okay. Julian was introduced in the book called Ice Cold, where he's an orphan now, and he is sort of becomes adopted by Maura Isles, and becomes a little smart little detective himself. So you next see him at a school in Last to Die, where he's in this school where they take care of orphans who've lost their parents to crime, and these children are all being raised to fight crime themselves. So Julian has not been in the last, I can't remember, I don't think he was in the last book, but he's still there. He's now off to college. And that's a good question. I don't know. Maybe that's what I should be writing about, is what happens to Julian, who's otherwise known as Rat.
Ooh, well, I would like to know what happens to Julian. So maybe we'll see Julian next up. I love that. The follow-up question Tristan has is, what about Brophy or Dean? Do they ever appear?
Actually, they both have small roles in this book. They are definitely there, and we see that Maura's relationship with Daniel Brophy continues. It's now reached a comfortable equilibrium, and I think they both accepted the fact that they're just going to keep on going on, and they both love each other.
Yay! Marcy says a plunger. I love that. It's even better than a pantser. Marcy, I that caught my attention too because it just has so much energy to it. You just plunge right in instead of pantsing. So Tess, let's talk a little bit more about that. So you plunge in, and then you said sometimes you find yourself stuck, and
Yeah.
then you have to back up out of that alley. How do you know that that you're stuck? Are you just running out of creative energy, or you can't figure out how to get to the next scene? And how do you back it up?
I know, I just feel like something's not right. And it's just, you start to feel uncomfortable. You think, well, this character, I don't know, they wouldn't do that, or this character needs a better motivation. In fact, I faced that issue with the book I'm writing now, where I got halfway through the book and I thought, this isn't working. There's something wrong here. I don't think these characters would do these things. And
Wait, this book or the one you're writing
no,
now?
the one I'm working on right now,
Okay.
the spy novel. And there were weeks when I would wake up every morning like, oh, I've got to shut this down. This is a terrible book. I should just throw this away. And for some reason, and this usually happens, I'll wake up with the idea. I'll wake up and think, oh, that's where I went wrong. And I don't know how to explain it. I think a lot of the work we do is subconscious. A lot of it is done while we're sleeping. We go to sleep fretting over something, and we wake up and think, why didn't I think of that before? So that's the process. And I had to face it again with this my 31st or 30, I can't remember how many books it is, my 31st book, still going on, still having problems.
Wow. Okay. So first of all, thank you for sharing that, for your transparency and just you're revealing that to us. Because I think as I struggle through writing only book number 2, I was hoping that maybe by the time I got to book 31, that I would just be just a well-oiled machine rolling along at 60 miles an hour. But no. So it never goes away. Is that what you're telling us, Tess?
Well, I hope it'll be easier for you.
I doubt it.
I mean, I think there are some people that are well-oiled machines. I mean, especially the people who are planners. Gosh, I bet you they just sit down and they just write out what they had already plotted beforehand. And as I said before, I've tried so hard to be a plotter, and I either get bored with the outline that I had written, or I just come up with a better idea in the middle of it.
Oh, oh, Tess, I'm loving this conversation. You're giving me hope. You're giving me humanity. Thank you so much. Debbie, welcome to the conversation. Joining us from Arizona. She would like to know, Tess, will you be touring live, doing any in-person events to promote this book, or signing any copies of Listen to Me?
I'm not doing much of a tour in the US. I'm doing tours oddly enough, in the UK and in Germany. But I will be signing copies for the Poisoned Pen in Arizona. So you should just get onto the Poisoned Pen website and you can order it through them.
Or how about this? Anyone who orders today through Murder by the Book, I will send Tess some signed book plates with Say's self-addressed stamped envelopes, and maybe Tess could sign them for us and
Absolutely.
send it back. So I'm gonna here's the link to buy today, and I bet we could even ask Tess to personalize it for us.
Yes.
So if you buy it today, here's the link. Debbie saying, "Yay!"
Yes. Just tell me what you'd like me to write on it.
Yay. Okay. So DM me after this event in the group, or DM me on any social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. I do it all. Tell me what you want Tess to say, and I will send her the special Mystery and Thriller Mavens book plates that I hand make. And then she'll send them out to you. So everybody grab the book. Here is the link. I just put it right in, no matter where you're watching from. Here it is. Katie, welcome to the conversation. She said, "Hi, Tess. I can't wait to see you in South Portland in a few weeks. My whole family is coming. We are over the moon for another Rizzoli and Isles book. Hooray!"
Yeah, I mean, I'm doing local events in Maine, in the state of Maine, in South Portland and Belfast, Maine, and so I am doing a couple there. But other than that, my U.S. tour is. I think that the UK got me first. That's what they had me scheduled first.
Excellent, excellent. Anissa saying, "I've heard that some plotters say that they write 20,000 words or more, especially historical fiction writers. Yes. So Jeffrey Devers, when he's a notorious plotter, he writes up to 180 pages of plotting, spending 6 months plotting. That's a lot of words.
That is, well, that's more than I had. I have heard others say they wrote 75 to 80 pages, and I thought that was crazy. So, yeah, Jeff, I mean, you know what? You know who tends to be the most meticulous plotters, I think, are lawyers. And maybe it has to do with the sort of minds they have to become attorneys, that they plot things out ahead of time. They know what they're going to say. They have to come up with their strategy in their regular lives. That may be why they feel so comfortable doing this kind of plotting ahead of time.
Ooh, that's an interesting correlation. Yes, because Devers, Jeff Devers is a former lawyer. Maybe that's how their brains work.
Maybe.
I want to remind anyone who wants a personalized book plate, DM me, Sarah, with your receipt for Murder by the Book, and I will personally send you a book plate, which Tess will personalize for you. This is so fun. I'm so excited. So we just have 2 minutes left. We're actually just ending our time, but I just want to talk about a few more amazing reviews. Shari LaPena, New York Times bestselling author of most recently The Couple Next Door, raves that, quote, "This is absolutely first rate. Readers will be thrilled and delighted by the new Rizzoli Isles." So check out that amazing book, a bit of praise. And Nisa's saying lots of reformed lawyers are authors now. Yes, I've noticed that. I wonder if the lawyer brain is
lawyers have to write. They have to write for a living anyway, so they're very comfortable with writing, I think.
Exactly. But here you are, a medical doctor, switching over to this very creative field, loving that transition as well. As Tess, you were saying that, I believe you said that sometimes those weird little left turns are often the most interesting. Tell us what you meant by that.
Well, everybody expects another Rizzoli and Isles book, but sometimes I get an idea that takes me off in a place that I wasn't expecting. I wrote a ghost story called The Shape of Night. Well, I guess you could call it an erotic horror book. That was way out of left field, but it was just one of these stories I wanted to tell because I live in the state of Maine where we have a lot of haunted houses, and I thought that would be fun. And then I did another left turn when I did a book along with Gary Braver. We did a joint novel called Choose Me. I've done historicals. And sometimes those little left turn stories that you don't expect to write are the ones that are the most fun to do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I loved Choose Me with Gary Braver. Marcy saying this was such a great discussion, you guys. Thank you, Tess and Sarah. Marcy, thanks for joining us. So great to have you. I want to remind you all the book is out in July 5th. So grab your copy today. Again, Tess will personalize a book plate. Just DM me your name and what you want her to say, and I will send those off to you. Tess, I want to thank you for coming on again to first with Gary Braver last year, now giving us the scoop on this Rizzoli and Isles, the 13th Rizzoli and Isles, for the special pre-launch event. Thank you so much for all this information. Susie saying, thank you for such a great conversation. Susie, thanks for joining us. And I cannot wait for this retired spy novel. You have to come back and tell us about that one as well next year.
Thank you very much. I'll be delighted to.
Yay. All right, everybody, have a great day. I'll see you at the top of the hour with New York Times bestselling author Lee Goldberg. Hang tight.